So I thought it would be good to share a video about taking a gap year after you finish college. And these are some things that helped me when I took a gap year. My gap year was not planned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aisha. I'm just a no niche person. I can't be tied down. I'm a Gemini and I'm just multifaceted. What can I say? So should you take a gap year after you finish college? I actually took a gap year or two. I think it was 2 years. The original plan was to go to college, get my emphasis in pre-law, go to law school right after. And I said, you know what? I gotta take a break because my entire time in college was like fast paced, but we'll get to that. The plan changed. I did not prepare for the LSAT, and so I had to take time off anyway to prepare for the LSAT. I think that a gap year is actually a great idea. Depends on what your career path is. It depends on how you feel, what your goal is, blah, blah. So let's talk about the benefits of taking a gap year after college. Okay. One benefit is personal growth. You know, you've come from potentially from your parents' home to another safe environment, whether you're on the dorm, on campus apartment living, you're still in a safe, structured environment. Your tuition, your bills are pretty much paid. And I'm talking about just basic college. I'm not trying to get into details about who's paying for college and all this other stuff because I get it. Trust me, I had my ups and downs with college, and every semester I was sitting outside the financial aid office waiting for that check to clear. You go from one home to the next. And when you get to college, you're getting cafeteria food, you're going to breakfast, you're going to lunch, you're going to dinner if you choose to do so, but the food is there. I didn't have the food a part of my plan, but I had some great homies that worked in the cafeteria and they used to leave that back door open. That's how you do it. But I don't recommend that. Personal growth. This is your time to grow. If you didn't get to travel while you were in undergrad, if you didn't get to like have a break, if you were a biology major, a business major, a lot of my friends were biology majors or business majors and they were like non-stop hardcore. They had breaks every now and then, but they were like super stressed over their studies. I went in with an English major because that's what everybody told me to do. And they were like, you need to major in English because you're going to law school and this is what people want when you go to law school. So I was like, okay. I was really good at English. English was not very challenging for me, but it was boring. It was like, okay, do I have to major in this? So they were like, well, then you need to major in history. And I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm majoring in history. Learning about history in a classroom environment, I can't stand it. Like they teach it just so dry and boring. Me on my own, I love history. I love learning history on my own. I love traveling and exploring. But I said, you know what? I can't major in that. I actually switched my major to psychology. I took psychology 101 and it just fit. Me and psychology just connected, it came like second nature, and I was really good at it. I feel like the whole college experience overall, it does allow you that time for personal growth. You do get to be on your own a little bit, you get to explore. And I remember one time, me and my friends, we drove from DC to New York for some party. And my mom was like calling my dorm over the weekend. She was like, you didn't answer the phone. Where were you? And I said, I'm in college. Like, I don't have to answer the phone for you. And she told me, she said, you know what, Aisha, you're not even 18. You're still 17. You need to answer this phone when I call you. And you do not need to be driving to these other states for these parties. You need to be safe. That was a personal growth experience for me. I got to explore all these different things in college. I got to party here. I got to party there. I got to meet people here, there. I traveled a lot. And I was only 17 my first year. For those who are looking for more of that, because once you finish college, there's so much more to explore than your tiny campus. And I think because of maybe how I was raised and my background, I was used to kind of getting out there and exploring and taking risks and taking chances. But for those of you who are not and you feel confined to the campus grounds, you didn't get to do much in college, this is your time to travel, to go explore, to go, you know, experience different things, shape who you really want to be. So another benefit is to explore in terms of your career. Like I said, when I started college, I was so focused on majoring in the right degree according to my career path. Obviously, I stayed true to myself and I said, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to do what I want to do. Many of us don't get to make that decision, and many of us have not made that decision in college or leaving college. And so you leave college and you still have those like question marks in your head. It's like, dang, I spent 4 years like majoring in this particular field. Do I really want to do this? Like, do I want to go in this career? And you know what? Guess what? I explored my careers and I'm so glad I did. Because, yes, my major was psych and I still had goals to go to law school, right? But if I did not get work experience in those two career paths, listen, I would not have gone to law school, okay? Because I was gearing more towards psych. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I just love it. I moved back home because I was looking for a job. I couldn't find a job. And within like a month, I got a call saying, move back to the East Coast. We want to hire you as a in-house counselor for a adult living facility. So I'm like, what? That was super fast. So I moved back to the DC area. These were patients who were schizophrenic, bipolar, ADHD, ADD. And, I worked there for, say, like a year. And it was very challenging. I guess in that setting, I learned that these particular adults were so far into their diagnosis that, and then it was a living facility, which means that when you get to that stage, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to be discharged. You're not going to be leaving home to go live with your family. This is your permanent residence. So that kind of affected me because I was like, well, then what am I here for? Like, am I going to be able to change anything in these people's lives? I was like, this is not for me. And I remember I called my parents and I was like, I don't think I want to be a psychologist anymore. And they were like, well, Aisha, you got to do what you want to do. And I was like crying on the phone. I'm like, but like, this was not in my plan. Like, I thought I was going to come out of school and go into psychology now that I've majored in it. And they said, just because you majored in something or you switched your major doesn't mean that you have to go into that career field. They said, what happened to law school? What happened to your plan to go to law school? And I said, you know what? They're right. In the nick of time, a friend of mine called me. She said, Aisha, they're hiring at the courthouse and they need a courtroom clerk. I said, I'm there. So I interviewed for that job, and that's what changed my life right there. Shout out to Tamelia for giving me that connection, girl. Thank you, girl, because I went to law school after that. So for me, that was my career exploration. I worked at the courthouse. I was a courtroom clerk. I worked with some of the best judges and I learned so much from them. They allowed me to be involved with their process. They didn't treat me like a regular courtroom clerk. I got to handle like high profile cases. I mean, I saw the craziest stuff during trials. I saw the craziest exhibits and the craziest evidence. But that is what really gave me that motivation to say, you know what, I gotta follow what I really want to do, and I want to go to law school. Working there, I started to take courses to study for the LSAT. And that was a whole process because now I'm working 9 to 5. It's not like being in school studying for the LSAT. Yeah, school's important, but at the end of the day, this is a job. You're showing up for these people. For school, you're showing up for yourself. And so I'm showing up for these people. It was a very intense job too. It was also fun because I made great friends and we just had a good time. And we were young, we were in our early 20s. We were just having a great time. I was still going out. I was still partying. And for those who lived in the DC area, like, listen, if you were in DC in the early 2000s, what? Like, we had so much fun. But this is all about your exploration. This is all involved in your exploration, right? Because you're trying to figure out your career. You're trying to figure out where you're going to live. You're trying to figure out, everything. And what comes with that is meeting new people and going new places and going to the best parties, of course, right? And I ended up getting into law school. Gap year can also enhance your skills. There's a certain skill set that you're never going to learn in college. People interviewing me, when they saw my resume, I worked during college. So when I came out of college, I already had a resume built, and people were surprised by that because it was like, wow, we get so many people coming out of college and they don't have anything on their resume, and it's like, we don't want to hire you because you don't know what you're doing. While I'm in law school, I have legal experience, which they don't see. Mind you, your first year of law school, it's recommended that you do not work because the courses are so intense and the studying is so intense. They don't want you to work. They want you to be fully focused on your academics. But I said, for me, I have always worked during my studies. And for me, I need to work. I need something else to keep me on track and to keep me focused, because my ADHD is going to go all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, I have to work. Coming out of grad school, that gap year experience was like, it gave me so many different skills. And a lot of jobs that hired me were just floored. They were like, we cannot believe you have all this experience. In law school, I worked as a law clerk for a law firm. So coming out of law school, not only do I have law firm experience, the court experience and trial experience, and that was a big hit for, jobs when I came out of law school. Certain skills you're not going to learn when you're in college, and you're just going to have to learn by experience. Another benefit is global perspective. A lot of you have grown up in the same town your whole life. And then some of you have stayed in the same town, whether to go to community college to save, which I think is an excellent idea. I know it's hard to stay where you are, but saving money is such a good idea. And those first 2 years of college are predominantly your generals, and you can get those credits from a community college at a spectacular price, right? If some of you do that, you're not getting that perspective of being out of your hometown. The amount of growth that happens in your brain, your look on life when you travel. Now, for me, I have parents who are foreigners, okay? My mom was born in Jamaica, raised in England. My father was born in Africa and raised in England. And growing up, we just always traveled a lot. And people used to say, oh, are you military? No, we just can't get it together. That's what we are. We are a foreign family who can't get it together. So I've always had that perspective that was growing. But I knew I wanted to keep that perspective continuing to grow, because things change, life changes, the world changes, and you need to be able to experience these things happening in the world. For somebody who's been in the same hometown their whole life, or been under the same rules and regulations under their parents' strict household their whole life, or, been forced to abide by this rule or go to this church or be forced to follow this religion without having to understand what that religion is about, whatever it may be, you need to travel. You need to figure out who you are. Let me wait for the noise because she running downstairs, the little girl. You need to figure out who you are and what you want to be. And sometimes getting that global perspective and traveling, it just does wonders for you. So my second year, I traveled to Spain. I did a year abroad. I got a minor in Spanish. That year, I really realized that I was like a depressed college student. Legit. And what was funny was that my friends were too. Mind you, we were in a foreign country and a lot of us didn't know the language. Some of us knew the language. Some of us were learning quickly on the language and were doing very well. And then people like me took some time learning the language. We all had our days where we were kind of just low. We would be in our dorm rooms with the lights off and the shutters closed, just laying there in darkness. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm depressed. But the point is that I would not have figured that out if maybe I didn't travel to Spain and spend a year there. You're not going to get that global perspective if you don't travel. I met a set of friends in Spain that are my friends to this day. Just that experience alone, and then being able to travel during that gap year. So I'm saying, if you don't get that experience during your college years, that's fine. You can get it during your gap year. Sometimes what happens is that you go to college. After college, you go directly into grad school. You never really had that time to kind of figure out yourself and travel and learn. And then right after that, some of you meet your spouse in grad school. I'm not knocking that, but Global perspective is great and it does wonders to your mind. It shapes you. It actually builds your character in a different way, and it's huge. So another benefit is networking opportunities. During that gap year, I was able to learn so much from other people. I went to all these different functions and met the mayor of DC. Just kind of like inserted myself in like the DC network and the DC lifestyle. I went up to New York. I met some great people. But again, working as a courtroom clerk during that time, I was able to make connections with the judges. And those judges were able to write me recommendations to some of the greatest law schools. So network connections is very important. I touched on this a little bit about the resume building. You will be surprised at how many jobs, maybe back then, really like tried to knock you for coming out as a student with no experience. It was like, oh, well, you don't have experience doing this. Well, no shit. I've been in school, fool. Like, I remember when I came out of grad school, they knocked me for having too much experience. They were like, well, usually we get people who, don't have this much experience. Like they're just starting off as a law clerk. So we know we can hang on to them for a good amount of time. I had law firms tell me, you are overqualified. And we know that once you figure out what you want to do with your career and you take the bar on the East Coast and you get your license, you're probably going to leave and start practicing. And I had to like get to the point where I was like reassuring these people, like, I'm not going anywhere and please hire me. In terms of practicing as a lawyer, I didn't always know if I wanted to do that. Having that time off allows you to add a lot on your resume, whether it be volunteering somewhere, adding that you've traveled and you've picked up another language, whatever it may be. But it is great for building a resume. I hope this helps if you're trying to figure out if you want to take a gap year after finishing college. Like I said, my gap year, I needed that time. I had such a great time. You also need to make sure you're focused because the purpose of taking a gap year is not for you to just have fun and then say, I don't ever want to work. Like I finished college, I don't want to work. I just want to live in my parents' home and travel and do whatever I want and have them like take care of me. No, that's not the purpose of the gap year. Some of those benefits are, your personal growth, your global perspective, being able to travel, building your resume, figuring out what career path you want to go into, building network connections, and the list goes on. So I wish you luck. Whatever your decision is going to be, make sure you pray about it and just live your life. Live your life, have fun, and congrats on graduating. So I'll see you on the next video. Bye.